Welcome to Mpowered Living. I'm Ann Sheu. On this podcast, innovative leaders and visionary experts share insights and practical tools for work, family, and marriage. Each episode, we'll explore how to elevate your life while staying grounded in what truly matters to you. You're working hard to navigate relationships, build a thriving family, and create a legacy of purpose. We're here to help you do that with confidence and intentionality. So if you're ready to live a life by design, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Mpowered Living, where we explore how to live intentionally and create thriving families, businesses, and lives. I'm your host, Ann Sheu, and today's episode is all about building confidence, overcoming challenges, and unlocking potential, both for ourselves and the next generation. Joining us in this incredible episode is Margo Jordan, a powerhouse entrepreneur and founder of Enrichly, a global platform dedicated to cultivating self-esteem in children and adults. From a childhood shaped by adversity to a career in investment banking, and now leading a mission-driven organization impacting lives across the world, Margo's journey is nothing short of inspiring. In this episode, Margo will share the 3 top strategies parents can use to help kids build strong self-esteem, how leaders can translate self-esteem principles into the workplace for stronger teams and better results, her personal story of resilience, and what she's learned about balancing motherhood, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. Margo's work proves that self-esteem is not just a personal journey. It's a foundation for healthier families, better leadership, and stronger communities. If you've ever struggled with self-doubt or wondered how to empower the people in your life, this episode is a must listen. Let's dive in. All right, welcome. I have Margo with me today, and I am so excited to dive right into our conversation. Welcome, Margo. How are you?
Hi, Ann. I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Okay, so let's just dive right in. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started and the business that you're working in right now.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and when I was a child, I struggled with my self-esteem at times, and this was really just due to a lot of childhood traumas that I had experienced from my parents being married and divorced several different times from one another. And my mother was a veteran who suffered from PTSD, so she actually had this acute addiction to drugs and alcohol. So I was then this kid in high school making a bunch of poor decisions, doing things that weren't really leading me down the right path. However, when I turned 18, I decided to join the military. And the military was really where I discovered a sense of self. My self-esteem flourished, and I was able to not only realize what my potential was, but I was actually able to reach towards that potential. So, still serving in the military, I decided to take my college journey to Texas Southern University, and I moved from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Houston, Texas, and that's where I earned a bachelor's degree in finance. And I went into investment banking, and I had this elaborate plan of becoming a part-time officer in the military under the finance brigade, living out my finance career as an investment banker. And then, I got hurt in the Army. And then I was still an investment banker, but I kind of realized, okay, I really want to do something that's super impactful. And because I was still, even as an adult, sort of struggling with this idea of like self-esteem, I kind of decided like, I want to leave corporate and I want to start something that is really going to give people the essential skills that they need to develop a healthy self-esteem. So I left corporate America and I started a company. It was called Chicks with Class, which was a brick and mortar back in 2000.
Yeah.
It was a self-esteem learning center for
Oh,
girls. And it was interesting because I had did all of this research around how low self-esteem is linked to youth violence, poor mental health, low academic performance. And then I said, okay, if self-esteem is number 4 on Maslow's hierarchy of needs chart, why are we not teaching kids this basic skill? So I just decided to start with little girls. So I built this center and we were impacting kids all over Houston. It was really great.
wow.
And COVID happened. And I was like, okay, I got to close my store. We can't go into schools anymore. We had ended up developing so many different partnerships with schools from selling these programs to them. And then when COVID allowed us to really shift our business, and which is why I say COVID was like a blessing and a curse, because we went from having this little brick and mortar where we could serve maybe 100 kids in our store at a time and then go into different schools here and there, to now we have this digital learning platform where we were able to take everything that we learned in that brick and mortar, pour it into this digital platform, implement things like machine learning, gamification, and then the data analytics. And we've been able to impact kids like all around the world. So we went from just this little place in Houston to now we're in like the UAE, we're in Egypt, Brazil, going into Canada, just all over the world, because self-esteem is, we say it's a global public health issue. If you have low self-esteem, it ties to so many other things. So I'm just super excited about what we are building and the impact that we've had so far.
Yeah, this is really fascinating because in our Empowered Families program, we have this idea of life-changing adventures. It's inviting really hard, difficult things into your life because we know on the other side there's going to be incredible growth and transformation and this confidence spillover effect. And
Yeah.
I'm curious, based on all of the work that you've done, what do you think is at the heart of cultivating self-esteem in kids? Like what are like the two or three things that if parents could focus on these things, they
Yeah.
would really help strengthen their kids' self-esteem?
I would definitely say parents should really help children to understand how not to fear failure. Failure is really a part of life. It's a part of growing. A lot of adults grow up and, or they grow into themselves and they regret not doing certain things, which then falls into a lack of competence. And they didn't go after those things because they were just afraid to fail. When if you really look at failure as something that you should seek to attain, you won't be afraid to do anything. And that belief in yourself, it really feeds your self-esteem and it helps to promote a positive self-image. So I would definitely say parents should really give their children the tool to understand how failure is something that you should seek to attain as much as possible, because as when you find out what doesn't work, that's how you get to what does work. And it's something about failing with grace that allows you to pick back up and keep trying. And then also, I think setting healthy boundaries is another one that I would definitely say is something that parents should teach their children at an early age. It's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence. I had to learn that in my adulthood, and when you get into like this sort of pattern of saying yes to everything, now you're a people pleaser. And then you're beating yourself up because, well, I really wanted to say no to that person, but I said yes, I would do this thing. And it does something to your sense of self because you're tying that to, okay, well, what does that say about me as a person? Was I too nice? Or why didn't I just say no when I should have? And then you just start to question yourself and then you start to beat yourself up even more. And then I would probably say the last thing that I would have parents to focus on is teaching their children how to have a sense of pride about any and everything that they do. They should tie their sense of self to not achieving certain things, but the journey of going through that. And honestly, this was something that I learned through adulthood. I think as adults, we are always looking at achieving this one thing. Like, okay, if I just do this and I get there, then everything will be great. But then you're not really paying attention to the entire journey that you took to get there and how many lessons you learned and what you could do different next time or whatever the case is. And there is such power in that journey over the achievement, and tying your pride to the fact that I did this amazing thing. Yes, I got to that place, but look at all of this stuff I did to actually get there.
In Empowered Families, we're taking a lot of business ideas, business philosophies, and applying them into the family. But this is something that you're working on in the family unit with kids. How would you apply these ideas into the workplace? Like what leadership strategies translate back into the workplace?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I'm actually right now creating an adult module on things like self-esteem, self-worth, imposter syndrome, setting healthy boundaries in the workplace. All of these things tied directly to stuff like employee engagement, employee morale. When I think employees or just individuals in general, when they have a healthy sense of self, they're going to perform better. For example, if you are a leader in your organization and you woke up on the wrong side of the bed and you've done this for months now, all because you have a distorted self-image and you're feeling bad about yourself, you're feeling bad about what you may not have accomplished, you're taking that same energy into the workplace. What is that going to do to your team? It's going to provide that same energy that you're giving off to those individuals, and then that leader in that group who is supposed to be leading the charge, they're actually doing the exact opposite, because their energy is bouncing back to their team. And they're only going to take that into those little micro jobs that they are responsible for. They're going to put that same energy there. And then the workplace, it's going to continue to decline in things like employee engagement. So then when leadership looks at the bottom line, they're like, oh, well, our bottom line is like drove down. Well, why? What is the culprit? And it all goes back to that individual person. We always say that individual's attitude about themselves is internal, but then it becomes external because they provide that same energy to other people. Really great example of somebody just recently. She has very low self-esteem. She's very toxic in the workplace. And she has done such a great job at sending that energy off into other teams in that same organization that they lost a huge contract because of her attitude and because of her unhealthy sense of self. And, how many times has that happened in the workplace? How many large contracts have been lost because this individual that's in this leadership position is giving off that negative energy, all because they don't feel good about themselves?
It's contagious.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, so share with us a fun success story that you've had with your own kids and helping like cultivate and build their self-esteem. Like did it look like before? What did you do? And then what did it look like after?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'll use my 11-year-old as an example. So he does competition tumbling and trampoline, and he just started this sport maybe a year ago. He was in gymnastics at first, and he was like, "Mom, I really don't like it." He's been liking this sport since he was about 4. And I was like, "Well, okay, let's see if we can get you into a different part of gymnastics." And then we kind of discovered, okay, I like tumbling and trampoline. He had no experience in this whatsoever, but he was so good that they scouted him and they said, "Hey, we really would love for him to come and do competition." So he started out, I think, level 4. And he went into it with an attitude of someone who's never really played sports before. And, he really wasn't comfortable with losing. And I really had to teach him how to lose with grace. When he lost his first competition, I want to say he came in like 6th place. He wanted to throw the medal in the garbage. And I said, "Look, son, you cannot do that. Like, let's regroup here." And I had to have a couple of conversations with him about the art of losing. And when I tell you, I was so proud of my son this last competition because he came in 4th place. He's done 1st place, I want to say 8 times out of 10. The last 2 times he came in 4th and 5th. And he lost with so much grace. He messed up on the trampoline. Now, the first time he messed up before, he just stopped. He got down and was like, "I'm done." But this time, he actually paused. He continued to fill out his routine, and he got his little 5th place medal. And he was smiling, and he shook the hands of the other players. And I was so proud because I didn't even care that you didn't win 1st place. I cared about how far you came within this short amount of time, that you're understanding how to lose with grace. And how not to fear failure, and it's things like that that let me know we're doing the right thing, because we want to send our kids out into the world to be the best humans possible to help make the world a better place. And that was like an example of like how we're doing as parents.
So tell us what you said to him. What was the coaching conversation that you had with him? For the parents out there, me specifically, if I want to have this coaching conversation with my child, what are the things that I should be focusing on in that conversation with him when I am, whether it's in the moment or whether it's after the fact, but
Yeah.
what should I focus on in that conversation?
So honestly, when your kid is mad, right, and they really just don't even want to talk, think about how you may feel when you lose something, lose a competition, lose a business deal, or whatever the case is. You may not want to hear positive things that anyone has to say because you just want to sulk. So what I reminded my son of, and I say this all the time, okay, I'm gonna give you a minute. You cry for a little bit, but then you need to get off the crying pot, and you need to understand the fact that whoever won that first place, they deserved to win it. Don't feel bad that you lost. Just work harder the next time. Because if you were supposed to win first place, you would have won it. Did you work as hard as you could have? Did you put enough into it? And if the answer is yes, then celebrate that. Don't be mad because you didn't win. Celebrate the fact that I worked very hard, and you're not going to win everything. And I kind of reminded him of times where I may have went after this huge deal and may have lost it. I've done pitch competitions in the past. I lost probably 5 times in a row. And then I had to remind him, I lost 5 times in a row, but I didn't give up. I went again and again and again and again. And eventually I won the biggest pitch competition yet, right? So think of instances like these as parents where you can turn situations or experiences that you've had in real life and put that into a learning scenario where they can learn from what you did or what you didn't do to improve their behaviors. And then always just kind of remind your kids, like, nobody is perfect. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be mad. But at the end of the day, nobody is going to feel bad for you. You have to get up and you have to keep trying. Because if you actually want to win first place, you're going to try again and you're going to get up there and you're going to win it, and that, I guess the conversation paid off when he was ready to talk, because of his actions in that moment and then his actions afterwards.
Yeah. So one thing that I really loved about what you just shared is that you're sharing your failures with him.
Yes.
In what other examples do you have where you are intentionally, proactively sharing, talking about your failures with your kids?
Every chance I get, I try to share my failures with them because they may see like success stories or like my kids have, I let them have an Instagram and they see me post different things. But I always let them know the backstory of how that even happened. Like, your mom tried 3 times before this was even possible. If I would have stopped the first time that I lost, you wouldn't even see this article. If I would have let outside factors intimidate my goal, this wouldn't have come to fruition. I really tried to expose them to not just the good, but the bad. And that helps keep me grounded. It helps keep them grounded, but it gives them a sense of determination. I remember when my son he tried out for math Olympiad and he didn't get in and he was like 2 points away. And I brought up a time where, hey, your mom went after like a $2 million grant, and I was 2 points away from winning the actual thing. And it's like giving them the sense of you're not the only one who didn't make it, but don't be the one that gives up because it takes grit, discipline, all of these things to ensure that you actually reach that goal. And if you don't get it on try one, try again. But I really try to make sure I'm constantly feeding them my experiences, positive and negative, so that they can sort of incorporate that into the decisions that they make going forward.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's shift a little bit and talk about you personally. How have you managed to juggle raising four kids, starting a business, building this amazing business, growing it, growing your team? What are some of your secrets?
A lot of time management. Sometimes I think I'm like all over the place, but apparently I'm doing something correct. So I want to say probably about 4 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago now, actually. So my husband and I had separated. Like, he was going through a terrible time in his life, and I was actually like a single mom for probably about 3 years. And I really had to go through COVID, um, building a business up from scratch, raising three kids at the time because I only had three, keeping the home a home while trying to stay sane. And I remember telling myself every single day, because I was like doing all of these things, I was like, you got this. Like, so many people have went through so much more, and I'm not sort of downplaying my journey or anything that I have to go through, but I kept my why at the forefront of my mind. My children are my why, and my mission is my why. I knew that me building this company was way bigger than me, and I understood that on the other side of things, as long as I keep going and I keep pushing, things would get better. I'm happy to say that my husband is back. He's like such a great partner, friend. He makes sure that, I'm traveling a lot now. So he is there with the kids and make sure that they go to school, eat dinner, baths, all of the things. But he still makes sure that I'm present as a mom, and I'm there for the kids. I wouldn't be able to do this without a team of people. I
Yeah.
would definitely say. And then for me, I always try to start my mornings out with these five things, which is meditation. So I'm always expressing gratitude. I exercise, read, write in my little journal, and visualize. And when I'm visualizing, I'm just looking at, okay, where do I want to be in the next 90 days, 120 days, the next year or two? And when I'm doing those things, it really allows me to give time back to me. I literally put a blocker on my calendar for 2 hours in the morning,
Nice.
solely dedicated to personal development. So I think personal development, making sure that you have a strong team around you. And if you don't have a strong team around you, time management is a huge thing. It's possible to do it. You just have to prioritize. Prioritize what's important for you. If you want to build a business and you have children, prioritize time management, commit. I think that's sort of the best way to answer that question.
Thanks for sharing about you and your husband and the separation and now that you guys are back together. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you have for other couples that are separated and trying to figure out if they're going to work it out, if it's over? Like, what tips do you have for those couples?
It takes a lot. It takes a lot of ownership in mistakes that you may have made. It takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of conversations. My husband and I, we usually do like 30 or 60-day check-ins. And he had entered back into my life, I want to say 2 years ago or so. And I was really not at a place where I wanted to do anything. Like, it was just be there as a parent, help me. You were gone for 3 years, so I need help. And it took a lot of therapy on his end. And I think for couples who are struggling, it's just like you have to ask yourselves, what do you want out of this? Where do you see yourselves? Write down what the pros and cons are. Do regular check-ins. Have the difficult conversations. So many couples want to sweep things under the rugs. And what I've done with my family is we have open conversations about everything. And what I found is conflict is necessary. It's necessary in anything that you do. Healthy conflict, on the other hand, is where the difference lies. And I think so many people try to avoid having those difficult conversations because it brings up unwanted feelings. But you have to feel all the feels if you want to get past this chapter that doesn't feel good. Do you want to feel bad here, or do you want to feel bad here but you're actually moving forward? So when couples are like faced with those decisions of, do we stay together, do we separate, like, think about everything as a whole. Like, how is this going to transpire? People go through real things, and I think we try to maybe put on a facade like everything is just so perfect, and that also prevents couples from like trying to move forward with anything. When my husband came back into my life, we were still married because when we separated, it was during COVID, and even though I tried to get a divorce, it was like, oh no, we can't find him, and it was just crazy. So I couldn't even go through with it because of that fact. But I had actually met someone completely different. And, my life is so interesting. Um, we had to talk through that entire like situation.
Yeah.
Because me and that other person, we had a child together, which is my fourth child. And we actually started to grow my business together. A lot of people would have come into the situation very immature, not wanting to talk about the difficult things. And because we kept that intact, I think that it plays such a huge part in how you're moving forward. So open communication, have the difficult conversations, feel all of those feelings that you don't want to feel, because I guarantee once you do that hard thing that you don't want to do, it's going to make the biggest difference in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how do you deal with those days where you are feeling the mom guilt? Just like I really don't believe in balance. I believe some days you're going to be an amazing mom, some days you're going to be an incredible business leader, entrepreneur, but rarely is it both in the same moment. So, in those moments where you just feel like you've where things are just a little out of whack and you've maybe given a little too much to one side or the other, how do you deal with those moments? Who do you turn to? What do you do? What do you do for your self-care in those moments to make sure that you're able to move forward?
Yeah, look, I've had so many instances of mom guilt. Like today, yesterday,
Same.
prime
Same.
examples. I've never missed a birthday for any one of my kids, like ever, 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 ever. But I had to be literally 15 hours away in a whole other country, and I couldn't be there for my son's 11th birthday. And birthdays are such a big deal for me. And I was feeling so bad. And what I had to do in that moment was actually feel the feels, and I didn't feel bad about the mom guilt. I understood where the feeling was coming from, but then I had to level with myself. And I said, okay, what can you do to make sure that your son feels loved? Make sure that he understands why you have to go across the country. And how can you make sure that you don't feel like, a crappy parent at the end of the day? In that moment, I gave my son a hug. I said, I'm not going to be here for your birthday, but here's what I'm going to do instead. And we just kind of celebrated 2 days before his birthday. And he smiled. And then I made sure to, be on FaceTime when he opened up his gifts from me. And he walked outside to a huge yard sign. And, he felt my presence, even though I was not there physically. And because his birthday is one day before Halloween, like we always take the kids to get their costumes and trick or treating. And that's just a tradition. And I wasn't able to be there. And I was feeling all the mom guilt. And I had to just remind myself again, look, you're doing something that is really going to move the needle forward with the business, and it's going to allow you the freedom that you want later. And sometimes sacrifice is necessary. And I had to suck it up. I felt how I felt. And, I said, okay, this is what it is. They're with dad, they're having a great time, and everything will be fine. But I think, having the conversation with myself and leveling with myself, it just really allowed me to alleviate the pressure of the mom guilt.
being a female in tech, I know you've won a ton of awards, you've received a lot of grants. How do you promote yourself and really advocate for yourself? Because I think as women, it is so hard for us to do that naturally. So, what are some tips that you have for other female leaders if they really want to put themselves out there and apply for these awards, apply for these grants, but they might be feeling a little embarrassed or ashamed or lacking the confidence?
I just kind of go for it. And I don't even really think about the critics. Uh, I'll give you an example. There was a young lady, she was super sweet. And she sent me a message on LinkedIn and she said, "Hey, I would love to chat with you because I just got into this Techstars program and I'm actually pregnant and I feel a little embarrassed about it. But I saw that you had a whole demo day and you were like 8 months pregnant." I had like this photo on LinkedIn go viral because I was pitching my company and I was pregnant up there. And I had to tell her, "Girl, that is a part of being a woman. Motherhood is a beautiful thing. And I don't care about what anybody has to say. I'm pregnant. So, like, I'm still going to pitch. I'm still going to go after all of these opportunities because I guarantee I can do anything that a man can do in this field, if not better." So I kind of just put everything behind me and I'm like literally going to go for it. I never have any fear because at the end of the day, a lot of these sort of opportunities that I go after, I always tell myself, why not me? Why wouldn't I be able to get it? I feel like more women should advocate for themselves and say, why not me? It all goes back to that whole thing around self-esteem and self-worth. Like, why are you not feeling like you're worthy or capable of receiving of an award? Go after it. You never know. You make 0% of the shots that you don't attempt. Every opportunity that comes to me, I take full advantage of it. And it just so happens that, I may walk away as the winner. Sometimes I do let my imposter syndrome get in the way, but I always tell that little voice in my head that's been super negative. I just say, okay, shut up. I'm going after it anyway. Like, we're doing this thing, whether you're scared or not. And, I would definitely say, as a result of me doing those things, it's led to some of my biggest wins. I won like a $500,000 check last year because I went after this opportunity. Had no idea that I was even going to qualify for it, but I walked away as the winner. Won this whole opportunity to be the global women in tech from Globant, which is it's like $1 billion company. And I'm just like, I had no idea I could get any of this. I just kind of went after it. And, it never fails to surprise me. But yeah, just go after it. Don't even think about the critics and tell that voice in your head, the negative voice, to just be quiet.
Yeah. What does success look like for you in 10 years? You're going
Oh,
after all these things, making big deals, winning these awards. What does success look like personally or professionally 10 years from now?
um, so personally, I probably want to be somewhere like on a yacht in San Tropez, like with the kids, just kind of
I'm going to
chill.
join you.
Yes. Like that's what success looks like for me. Like my business is running on its own. Like we're in, I don't know, 50, 60 different countries, if not more. Um, we're like a publicly traded company at this point. My children are happy and successful, and I'm probably, starting an accelerator, empowering other women who want to be social entrepreneurs and teaching them how to start their careers there. So that might be what success looks like for me in 10 years.
I love that. What do you do to talk to your kids about their goals? Like, do you guys do any sort of goal setting? Do you talk to them? Like, what are you doing to model that so that they're learning at a young age how to do those things?
Every morning when I would drop my kids off at school, we had this little tradition where I would say, okay, tell me one thing you want to do today. What's one thing you want to accomplish? And then tell me one thing you're grateful for. And we would do these things like every day. And then we would do like these 3-month check-ins. I want you to write down what goal you might have over these next 3 months. So either my son will say, well, I want to be, I want to get straight A's. for the entire semester. And I'm like, okay, I want you to dig a little deeper. What else do you want to do? So every time, we would do our little check-ins, I would say, okay, where are you at with your goal? Give me another one. And I'm not necessarily having them look at the goal that they achieved, but I'm having them pay attention to what it's taking to get there. What steps are you taking to actually achieve this goal? And pay more attention to that than you are paying to the end of the objective, because you're going to get there, right? Everyone is going to reach that goal at some point in time. But what steps are you taking to actually get there? And that's what I'm instilling in my kids the most. Not looking at it like a sense of achievement, but looking at what was the journey like? How can you either improve on that journey, or what did you learn from that journey? How can that journey help you with your next goal?
Yeah, I love that. Tell us about what projects you're currently working on. What's on the horizon for you?
Well, I am super excited. So we've been working with children for years now, and we've always gotten the request to do like self-esteem for adults. And I would always kind of like, shrug it off, like, oh, we work with kids. But I've come to learn when the market is talking, you should definitely listen. So I'm super excited about the adult content that we're creating right now. And we're probably going to launch it at the end of this quarter. We're looking at some major corporations adopting self-esteem development into their wellness programs, which is super exciting. And it really gets me pumped, because I promise you, there's this affirmation that I say, which is, my business allows me to live the life that I desire. And I have a wonderful business in a wonderful way. I provide a wonderful service for wonderful pay. And the fact that we're dealing with these very large corporations, helping them with employee wellness, engagement, like all of the things that we were essentially doing with the children, in just a much bigger market. And it's just so much fun. This business takes me so many places, and we have this impact that we have, knowing what I know about self-esteem and how it influences so many things that you do. I get like chills all the time about the fact that I said, probably when I started the brick and mortar, I've always wanted to create opportunities for both shareholders and stakeholders. We've been doing that for the longest time, but it's like, adults need self-esteem development too. I'm really excited about that. I'm super excited about the technology, the partnerships that we have on the horizon, and the impact that we're going to make.
What industry have you not taken this work into yet that you're excited about going into?
Ooh, the elder community. I was on a walk. This was maybe about a year and a half ago. And I was walking my dog, and I ran into this older lady. She's maybe in her 60s, 70s. And we were just talking. She was like, hey, I always see you walk, but I'm always curious, like, what do you do? Are you a teacher or something? I said, well, I guess you could say I'm a teacher. She's like, well, what do you teach? I said, well, I teach self-esteem. She was like, really? She went into this entire, like, conversation around if she would have had some type of self-esteem when she was younger, like, where she would be. I sent her my TED Talk. She was so interested in learning about how to develop her own self-esteem. And when I look at that market, I'm like, I wonder how much impact we can make in the elder community. It would be massive. And I'm just really excited. We haven't even touched or tapped into that yet, but I'm really excited to offer them this idea around developing your self-esteem. It's going to be amazing.
Do you think that you'll take that into like nursing homes and assisted living homes?
Yes, definitely. Nursing homes, assisted living. There was actually a nursing home that we wanted to do a pilot program with. But, being a startup founder, you can't put all your resources everywhere. But, that might be in our near future based on what we're working on with these corporations. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. Okay, so where can our listeners connect with you, learn more about your work? How can we support you?
So my website is enrichly.world. I'm on LinkedIn as Margo Jordan, and I'm also on Instagram as Margo Jordan. And if anyone wants to email me, it's just enrichly.world.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so final question. What is your one piece of advice that you would share with our listeners about what they can do to live more intentionally?
Prioritize the things that you want, commit to those things, and really take more, I guess, be more excited about the journey to get to wherever you're trying to go to, not so much as the destination. Like, that is honestly a really great way to live intentionally, because you're no longer tying your happiness to a destination. You're tying this to the journey of life, which you should be excited and happy to do. So that's what I would say.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. It
Thank
was
you,
a pleasure
Ann.
chatting with you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Empowered Living. I hope today's conversation sparked some inspiration and gave you tools to live more intentionally in your family, work, and life. If you enjoyed our episode today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story or actionable takeaway. And if you know someone who would love this episode, share it with them, because living an intentional life is better when we do it together. Until next time, remember, the life you want doesn't happen by chance. It happens by choice. Let's keep creating it one step at a time.